Thanks very much, Chris, for that introduction. Can you all hear me down at the back? Okay, just tell me if you don't, or if I speak too fast. Okay then, so just our cover picture is just to give you an idea of the sperrins, an area of outstanding natural beauty, and I know you have lots of lovely areas in County Clare, which would be more famous than what we have in County Tyrone. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty, designated about 60 or 70 years, so most of my lifetime anyhow. So I suppose the question came to us, how did a Canadian gold mining company know to come to the sperrins? And I'm sure some of you might think, how did a company know to come to County Clare? Because I'd say many of you would never have heard of the sperrins in County Tyrone. It goes across counties Tyrone and Derry. And so anyhow, in 2018, we heard that there was a big mining conference every year in Toronto. So we sent 2 young people over as spies to find out what was going on, because we heard that's how the company had been told to come to our area. So that was Emmett and Sinead on the plane heading over to pose as prospectors to a big conference in Toronto. It's an annual conference in March every year. 20,000 people from 135 countries go, and all the mining companies, the majority of them Canadian, I could say, and the prospectors and shareholders are all there. So the 2 intrepid reporters or spies headed on. And they found that Ireland had a stand, and Ireland had been attending this PDAC, Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada conference every year for 25 years, and that was in 2018. So, and they had all these maps of Ireland. Ireland apparently is the most mapped country in Europe. And when I say Ireland, we don't count the border, we count the whole island as Ireland. So I know that some people just call it, count the Republic and the North as 2 separate. So, but whenever the country was being promoted in Toronto, it was as a whole country. There was no border. Okay, so they had, in 2018 when they went over, there was a Minister for Natural Resources called Sean Kane, K-Y-N-E, I don't know how to pronounce it right, Kane. He was the minister giving the keynote address, and he also was the minister at that stage who was giving out the prospecting licenses. No conflict of interest there. And he was telling the people, these were their sort of strap lines, the companies, that they had this great Mineral Development Act, which still hasn't been enacted, but he was telling them it's very straightforward to get prospecting licenses, that they have streamlined permitting procedures, they have pragmatic environmental requirements. In fact, they were saying relaxed environmental laws were the words that were being said, flexible royalty regime, and security of tenure. Those were their strap lines on their stand. And as I say, Ireland, there's a Fraser Institute in Toronto, and it ranks countries according to the attractiveness of their policies to mining companies. And Ireland has consistently been in the top 5, so very attractive to mining companies. And the following year, well, whenever Emmett and Sinead were over in 2018, they made friends with various groups over there and reporters, etc., etc. So the following year, they'd contacted us to ask, did we want any information? So we said, yes, please. So the following year, it was Sean Kane. It was the TD, the Minister for Natural Resources, who was out that year. And in fact, he did it in 2020 as well. So anyhow, he was the keynote address. And again, Ireland open for business. And as you can see, the map, the whole country. And the pictures they had were telling the companies where to get the precious metals, where to get all the metals, where the minerals were. There was geochemical maps, geophysical maps, and everything free to the companies. So they were directing them where to go. So that's how they come to know to come to the sperrins or to come to Clare. And anyhow, we found out since that there's a company called Conroy Gold that's in South Armagh and it's also in Monaghan. So I just happened to be on their Facebook page or on their looking at one of their PowerPoint presentations to their shareholders, and they said they said north and south the same benefits exist. They get an immediate write-off of development and exploration expenditure, so all their money back that they spend. Low corporation tax and capital allowances of up to 120%. Capital allowances of up to 120%. Don't know if you heard about the RHI scheme in the north. They got allowances of up to 160. So every pound they spent, they got £1.60 back. But the mining companies get every pound or euro they spend, they get 120 back. So, isn't that great? So again, I just thought I'm sharing the map. Okay, just to let you know, on the 1st of May 2023, there were 385 current prospecting licences in the Republic of Ireland, in the 26 counties, let me say. So the pink areas, they're the ones that are currently given out, all the pink. Now, the pale green areas, the pale green, which is a lot more of the country, is open with incentives. So they call it, if you go into the website of geoscience, if you just even Google state mining and prospecting areas, they have a competition and companies, mining companies bid to get in. So it's called a competition. So the pale green areas open with incentives, and that's the ones the companies are interested in. The apple green areas are open but no incentives. And then the few orange areas, prospect and license offered, but haven't been yet confirmed. And then the very few, very small purple areas are national park and other excluded areas. So you can see there's very few areas excluded, the purple ones. And currently there's 5 current state mining licenses. And I know there's a man there was introduced to beforehand who's from Tulla, and he knows about that, Tulla. And then there's Navan, which is the biggest zinc mine in Europe. But I just heard on the RTE news during the week that 650 workers has been laid off, and they're saying their energy costs are too high. So obviously are looking to the government to subsidise them. And furthermore, what was the other thing I heard was, zinc prices have fallen greatly, that there is a lot of other countries producing zinc, so they're obviously not making the profits that they had been making. So that's the 26 counties. And 27% of the 26 counties have already been given out in prospecting licences, and 25% of the northern 6 counties have been given out in prospecting licences. And you can see that it's mostly counties Tyrone and Derry. Dalridian have 6 huge areas there, over 300,000 acres they have got. And then there's a diamond mining company in Fermanagh, and then Conroy Gold in South Armagh, and they're also over in Monaghan. Now, that was only setting the scene, how they came to get here. Now, I'll have a wee bit about prospecting, because I've divided up into sections, and because if I'm going on too long, they can tell me to stop. So what does prospecting look like? Because you're just in for that treat now with all the prospecting licenses that have been given out in Clare, and I'm sorry for you. The sperrins, an area of outstanding natural beauty, unspoilt area, really. This is the scars that are left with the roads they make for their drilling, platforms that they take out, and they make roads to take them across the bog and across the fields and across the mountain. And it's just left as a scar in the landscape. All those roads, they weren't there before. And they're not, like roads that you drive a car on, but, concrete or, stones. And again, our area is a small village called Greencastle in Tyrone. And the bogland in the north, the bogland is supposed to be a protected habitat, but the drill rigs are brought in on top of the bog, and even, there's absolutely no problem. They're allowed anywhere they want to go. And that, I was going to say the drilling rigs, we found out they come from Galway, and it's a company called Priority Drilling. We did do a visit to them, but you know, we weren't able to persuade the man. He said he was renting out his drill rigs, and it was his way of making money, and he was 4th generation doing it. Again, another example of a drill rig, and you can see here that there, it's quite heavy machinery that's brought out, and they put these wooden planks down, and it's very messy. And that they use a huge amount of water and flocculants and lubricants, and you can see they don't care whether there's stuff leaking or not. In fact, one of our colleagues who has a drone and that, and I don't have that slide actually, but he took an aerial view of one, and there was a jerry can and it was leaking, and you could see, and they weren't too concerned about it. Again, a danger to wildlife. That was a wee snipe that met us Waterloo because of them putting down the big wooden things. Then, okay, so when they do the drilling, they take out like a cylinder. They go down 300 to 500 metres deep, and they take out a cylinder of earth or rock or whatever it is they get. And that is, even though they know the area there's gold in it, they want to see at what level it is, because gold can be in veins, it could be in specks, and it could be at different levels in the ground. It might be 300 metres one place, and maybe there's a fault and it could be 500 metres, or maybe further down. So they are mapping all that, and so they have to do all these. I know that the last count, like Dalradian have about 1,000 of these boreholes, that's what they are, done in our area. Now, whenever they take out the cylinder of concrete or earth or rock or soil or whatever it is, they take that into their lab, I suppose you'd say, or store or warehouse, to label it and analyse it and all the rest of it, and state where it's from and all that. But they're supposed to plug it with concrete, the borehole, but sometimes they don't bother. And like that was an example of two the farmer told us. One, there's an orange gooey thing coming out of it, and the other one, there's another, like water. So that the farmer there had fenced that off because he had 2 sheep that he found dead, and he thought that they had drunk from the orange gooey one. And we told him to get them like a post-mortem. I don't know what you get done on a sheep, but something like a post-mortem. And so he said he would leave it to the next morning. And when he got up the next morning, the 2 sheep had disappeared fully. It wasn't that like a fox or someone had got them, that there would be some remains. The sheep were completely gone, disappeared. So we think too our phones are being bugged, but we're not paranoid. And that. Also, other implications for people if there's any prospecting in your area. Planning permission. A lot of young people now in our area are being turned down for planning permission for houses. For mortgages, mortgage companies are saying, "Oh no, you're living where the proposed gold mine is. No, you're not getting a mortgage." Insurance companies are raising the premiums on us. They're asking, "How far are you from the proposed gold mine?" And they still haven't got planning permission. And all that. And then there was people we know, a family called Kane, and they were, their grandfather had built, he was a stonemason, and he had built this stone house, and it was sort of got into ruin. And they decided to restore it, and they were going to have a family gathering of all their relatives from all over the world. And they had, there's 4 brothers of them, and they had put, a roof on it, and they were trying to do everything sort of being environmentally friendly and everything. And the next thing, the planners came out and issued them with a stop and enforcement of it, a notice. And Cormac had, my husband, he had written then to find out, what did that come from? And it turned out Dalradian's legal people, Dalradian's the name of the company, their legal people had written to the planners saying that it was too close to their proposed explosive store, and they wanted it stopped, and they threatened the planners, and then the planners rushed out and issued a stop and enforcement notice. So that's so that's a bit about prospecting. Could I say, you know, they will tell you prospecting is only going and taking soil samples and really will not disturb your land or anything. But I'm telling you, prospecting leads to mining. They're not going to be prospecting somewhere they don't think it's worth their while to mine. So they want to just be sure of the depths and all that they'll have to go to, and how close, you know, together that the veins of gold or whatever they're looking for. So our experience, this is now just what's happened to us. Dalradian Gold, a Canadian exploration company, they came and set up at the end of 2009 or 2010, but we didn't know anything about them, and they were less than 10 miles from us. They had an office. We didn't really hear about them until about 2013, when our neighbours told us that this company was giving out Christmas hampers. And all you had to do was go to their office and get a Christmas hamper. Now, we're very suspicious in the north, probably because of our experience, our history, and all the rest of it. So we said, sure, you don't know, there's no such thing as a free dinner. Like, there's some catch in this. And anyhow, we'll go back. We found out that Dalradian had already got prospecting licenses from the Department for the Economy to seek all metals, to prospect for all metals over the 300,000 acres in counties Tyrone and Derry. Then, you know our situation in the north where we're governed by England. The Crown Estate, now that used to say the Queen, but now there's the King, they own the rights to precious metals. So the farmer only owns the top 4 inches of the land, but the King of England now owns what's below that. So he will get a tax on any precious metals that are mined. So the Crown Estate issues they're called option lease agreements. So it was at that stage, it was the Queen, the Crown Estate granted Dalradian option lease agreements over the same 300,000 acres in counties Tyrone and Derry. And the chief of Dalradian is a man in Toronto called P.F.N. Anderson. He uses all those initials. And he had written in the Sunday Business Post in 2015 that he wasn't talking about a single mine, but a mine camp. So there you are. And anyhow, from 2014, Dalradian set up this community fund, and this is where they're trying to buy what's called the social license, and we've learned that term from other groups throughout the world, that they give out sponsorship, money, grants to people to get them on site. So in our area, they started off with the primary schools giving them iPads, even the Orange Order got uniforms and musical instruments. The charities, the Multiple Sclerosis Society got £3,000. Marie Curie got, he's telling me to wind up. Oh, flip. So, okay, so they got, anyhow, they give out a lot of money, and she knocked me now, and you have to sign, if you accept money from the mining company, you sign that you allow yourself to be used in publicity purposes and you'll not say or do anything against them. So anyhow, in 2015 we set up Save Our Sperrins, and it was in June, so it's almost 8 years. Can't believe we're going that long. And in November 2017, Dalradian submitted their planning application. It was 10,000 pages, the biggest planning application in the history of Ireland, north or south. It took us a long time to read it and then to write objections. And then in 2019, they submitted their first addendum to their planning application, and it was 15,000 pages, and we had to read that and write objections to that. Then in 2020, they submitted the second addendum, which was 20,000 pages, and we had to read that and write objections to that. So you can see we never have a spare minute. Okay then, and I know he's going to kill me, but anyhow, I'll try and get a few more slides in. Why do we object to gold mining? And it's because it pollutes the water, the air, the land, and people's health. So the ecological impacts. Dalradian applied to remove 74 acres of peatland in order to build their infrastructure. Okay, peatland is well known as a very effective carbon store, and we need to conserve all our peatland because of the climate crisis. They have applied to use explosives twice a week, every week of the year for 20 years. And explosives produce ammonium nitrate, poisonous to humans and poisonous to the environment, the emissions from ammonium nitrate. Whenever Dalradian have to remove their mine is 900, their proposal or their plan and application is for an underground mine 900 metres deep into the earth. And they'll have to take out thousands of tons of rock. And whenever they take out this rock, because it contains sulfides, and it's exposed to the air once it's taken out of the underground, and the water, the rain will fall on it. And we're in an elevated position, and we have heavy rain comes over from Donegal and falls on us. And that produces sulfuric acid. And sulfuric acid is another name for acid mine drainage. Okay, the acid mine drainage, the sulfuric acid, when that runs over the rest of the rock, it releases heavy metals like arsenic, mercury, lead, cadmium, chromium, copper, zinc, you name it. There's a whole host of them. And they are all in themselves, toxic. Then Dalradian in their plan and application said they will crush the rock to the fine consistency of flour, and they will store it. In their plan application, they said they would float it in a solution of sodium cyanide, and that will float the gold. And then the waste will be stored in a waste dump. Now, they don't say a waste dump, they call it a dry stack facility for their waste, their tailings, their heavy metals, and all the waste rock, which is ground to the fine consistency of flour. Now, we live in an elevated area, and you can imagine the strong winds that blow over us. And we were speaking to a Finnish biochemist called Jari Natunen, and he lives near a gold mine in Finland. And he did a study, and he found evidence, traces of very fine particulate matter, 2.5, on the leaves of trees, 60 kilometres away from the gold mine at Tulla in Finland. And it contained arsenic and mercury. And he told us that very fine particulate matter is very dangerous, particularly for children, because it goes into your lungs and it cannot be removed, and it causes respiratory diseases and cancers. So that's the air. But anyhow, remember I said about we're in a rainy area, so the rain will fall on it and it'll soak and seep into the water table and into our rivers and streams and all that. And our rivers are the headwaters of the River Foyle, and the River Foyle flows down to Derry. Our two rivers, the Owen Killew and the Owen Ray, are special areas of conservation, and they're areas of special scientific interest. But they're home to freshwater pearl mussels, and freshwater pearl mussels are Ireland's only globally endangered species. So they need pure, clean water. But Dalradian has applied for 2 discharge consents to discharge 24 heavy metals into the 2 rivers. And the heavy metals are those ones, some of them are those I mentioned, arsenic and mercury and lead and cadmium and chromium, etc. They've also applied to abstract, now listen to this, abstract 500,000 gallons of water every day of the year for up to 20 years from the peatland surrounding their proposed mine. And what that'll do to the peatland, obviously, will destroy it, will also have an impact on our groundwater, on our rivers, aquifers, streams, etc. So you can see, and I forgot the radon gas, the whole northwest of Ireland is high in radon gas, and people in the northwest in our area, have to put a barrier, a protective barrier in the foundations of their houses to stop the radon gas seeping through. So if Dalradian have a mine 900 metres deep, that will release the radioactive contaminants and will cause more cancers, etc. Oh, he's looking at me. We'll see. The human impacts. I'm okay, am I? Okay, I'll try just two more. Human impacts. Now, okay, already, divide and conquer, you've always heard that was know what happened in this country, but Dalradian has divided and conquered the community. We have the people who are for the gold mine, because Dalradian keeps saying that they've ads in the paper every week for the last 5 years. They have 2 PR companies. You couldn't keep up with them, and then so the papers won't accept really stories from us because we're not paying £1,000 a week or whatever. So Anyhow, you have the people who are for the mine because Dalradians say that they will make people wealthy, and there's going to be well-paid jobs, £40,000 and each, and all this stuff, you know. But it's only a myth. And health impacts, I've mentioned some of them already. But even as it is, and there's no mine yet, people's mental health has been affected. You'd know I'm mad, but like, you know, people are very nervous, they're anxious, they're not sleeping, they're worried about the future, what is going to happen, their children, their grandchildren, will they be able to stay there, will the school survive, all that sort of stuff. So people, you know, a lot of health impacts. Criminalisation of protectors, we got that term from other gold mine and anti-gold mining groups throughout the world. Apparently it's a strategy used by gold mining companies. It's to criminalise us. We call ourselves protectors to make us sound positive, and protectors and defenders. And they've called us other names. But anyhow, it's where they, you know, charge people with petty offences like Cormac resisting arrest because he asked them he asked the police why they were arresting him, and they said it was because he was blocking the road. But they charged him also with resisting arrest because he asked them. He did like, "Why are you arresting me?" And they said he used his hands, you know. So that was resisting arrest. But a lot of stuff like that, and we're bound, you know, we're running to the courts then it's taking your time, taking your money, getting solicitors, etc., etc. Death threats, I mean, going back to the criminalisation, with one man has been up 20 times, he chained himself to the gates of Dalradian's compound. Now, when I say chained, he had a cable tie. He cable tied himself, and they had to send for police from Belfast to cut the cable tie. Can you believe that? They didn't have, no, like, and and he's been 20 times in court, and every month it's put off, and he's a lorry driver, and he's paid by the day, and he has to, you know, and he works in Dublin. In fact, he's from Tyrone, but he has to come up and, you know, all that sort of hassle. Death threats. Cormac and two other men have got death threats. The police came out and told us, June 2019 was it, that they had reason to believe there were viable or credible death threats against them. And we asked them, well, I mean, was it an organisation? Was it an individual? Did you get a phone call? Did you get a letter? They said they were just delivering a message. They were just delivering a message. They said, take security precautions. Murder bids, and when I say that, it's now they haven't been shot at, but it's where Dalradian employees and supporters have driven at our people. Knocked them down, sent them across the bonnet of a car, hit them with vans, with cars, with a tractor, you know, that sort of thing. Physical assaults. One man was punched up in the shop and was caught in CCTV, and he never retaliated. In fact, he reversed back, and it was a supporter of Dalradian kept punching him, and he was reversing back all the time, and it was all caught in CCTV, and the shop put it up, and it went out, you know, it went out. And there was another man up at the gates of Dalradian's compound, was beaten to the ground. He ended up being taken to hospital, and they took his mobile phone and they stood on it and broke it and all. Threatening phone calls. Quite a lot of threatening phone calls, and we've got sort of a bit wise in that now. I tell Cormac, put it on speaker, and I start recording it, and he gets a lot of sex calls as well, you know. I think he it does. I can't believe it, like, but anyhow, only I have recorded them, and we brought them into the police on a memory stick, and the police wouldn't take it. Anyhow, so you can see that's me standing outside the police station saying, no crimes, all these things. The police, I should say that in 2021, the police announced that they were providing free security to any mining companies in the north. Before that, they had been going to charge them for having to be out. When explosives would be used, they'd have to be out, or security or whatever. But now they're giving them free. So really, they're on call. If we go up to Dalradian's compound, the police would arrive within a couple of minutes. If your house was burgled, it would take them a couple of hours. People followed at night, you know, and particularly women would sort of say about that, suspicious cars and that. And cyberbullying, I know it's the least of our worries, and we try to ignore it, but we're called a lot of horrible names, and they have nicknames on us all. And even in the town, they would write you were in, the Surrey and Duns and stuff like that. And it's just horrible. But anyhow, we've grown a thick skin. And I suppose what you can do, and I would say inform yourself about the dangers of gold mining. You don't have to take my word for it. Google it yourself about your health impacts, your water impacts, the air impacts. It's all available because it's so widespread throughout the world. Inform your family, your friends, your neighbours, your colleagues. Refuse mining firms or their agents permission to go on your land. And I got these in Donegal because we were over helping a group there. And they had done them out. Do not enter, it was a Gaelic area, they had not chater a sta, and no mining, no trespassing by order. Now, because some people are a bit shy and don't like saying no if they come to your door, but if you put them up in your window, put them at your gate, put them at your fence or whatever, and tell them, no, I don't want you here. And if you find you've been away somewhere and you come back and you find them on your land, you can order them off your land, and if they have samples, report them to the guards. They're stealing your property. Tell them I want my property returned. Those are my samples. You can't take them from my land, and report them for theft. No, you just get as crafty as them and join a campaign group to protect your area and lobby your local politicians. I don't know if there's any here, I have a feeling they're not. Organisations, clubs, clergy and people of influence. And as I say, I didn't realise that there's some prospecting licences up for renewal. And so send in objections. It's very important. See that group in Donegal, it was a Dutch company and they hit the ground running. They got 2,000 objections in. The Dutch company withdrew their prospecting application. So it was really good. I'll not go on any longer. I think that was strategies I'll just go back to that one. Just the end. We have a camp on the proposed site, and it started off in February 2018 with one caravan, but then it got damaged in a storm, so a second caravan came on, and it's called Greencastle People's Office, and you're all invited to come up. If you send us a wee message, that we'll have the kettle boiled and have plenty of cups for you, and you'll get a cup of tea and a bit of chat. We have a Facebook page, Save Our Sperrins. There's about 8,000 people on it, and we've Twitter and Facebook, etc. And then that bottom picture, in fact, it's our youngest son, but he was going over to Dalradian's compound himself with a sign, no poisonous gold mining in the Sperrins, Dalradian out. And it hit me way back, that was at the very beginning. And I thought there was a wee saying from John F. Kennedy, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. And I would urge every one of you to try to be the person to make a difference. And I do believe people power is what will win this battle against these mining corporations. Thanks very much.